Eastover, South Carolina. We're here for South Carolina LTAP. We've got a hands-on program today. Yesterday we had day one with a larger group, and today we have a small group to kind of go through and drop some trees, looking a little bit of bucking and limbing. A stand of pine here that more or less has had some bugs in them. Several really did. So I'm hoping that things are going to go good today. They need to come down, and probably if these folks do any felling, it's probably going to be dead pine trees or dead trees of some type. So I will say it'll be pretty good practice, but we're going to be very careful today in getting these down. But I've got about 20 trees. This is at the South Carolina shotgun, wing gun, and rifle area for the DNR, and it's open to the public. Really nice facility here, clay shooting and target shooting, and so it's pretty neat. But anyhow, these trees are on some access trails and things like that, and they need to come down. So we're going to work on them today in the program and see if we can help them out a little bit, and also get some training done as we go. But had a little windstorm came through here a couple weeks ago, and you can see they had some issues with things blowing down across, and they cleaned up a little bit of that. So hopefully we can get these down where they're not going to have them across the trails again. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a beautiful day. We'll talk to you later and give you an update. These trees were really a little rough and a little tough for a training day for some of these guys, but had to do a lot of cleaning and clearing around the work area. And you always want to try to not look down that guide bar and turn so if it kicks, it goes away from your body. Don't cut after, or above your shoulder. And always think about cutting the ground stubs short too, so if they stick up, if you happen to trip and fall, they're not going to go all the way through you. And then have to move the debris away and out of your foot traffic and your escape route, so very important. And this tree was a solid pine lighter in the front and totally powdered in the back. I mean, it was really a nasty tree. He was really fighting with the lighter, and then we ended up having to take it backwards just because the back just totally was powder. It just set back and stuck his saw. You can see the stump had a little or no usable fiber, and I'm really not sure how the tree was standing on its own anyway. We got it down safely, and all of us learned a lot from this experience. So now it's time to start bucking some of these trees up, and I put them into groups, and they worked as a team to cut. I put about 3 or 4 different marks on each one. They had to figure out what they were going to do, looking at side to side movement potential, up and down, back and forward, and then looking for what type of cut. In this case, this one was up off the ground about 3 feet, so we chose to use a notch and a hinge. But Scott did a really good job on it, but he ended up, he set it up with a little bit of a bypass there, so kind of listened through the talk through. Notice he used a bore cut here, so he didn't have to cut up with the saw. It was actually a lot easier than to cut down to release it, so it worked out pretty good.
What would that notch do that a little slide on the top, say that deep, wouldn't do? See, because now you got a bypass in there that it is a little bit deeper on that. It closed over, then it stopped. Why did it stop? Because that's starting to close. So if you got a Dutchman or a bypass there on a notch like this, it can't go very far, it's going to stop. Now if you come back up under it and just start cutting up a little bit, you'll see this one over here closed, then something's got to break. Something's got to break. Is it gonna go straight? We don't know, do we? It could push it sideways towards you. It could push it this way. Matter of fact, it was starting to come this way a little bit. Just kind of tickle underneath there a little bit and see what it starts to do.
In the same spot, right?
Yeah, underneath. Just come up, because you got about this much hinge on this side. How much you got on the other side?
About an inch.
All right, so keep it nice and straight. Just all the way through with your bar and just come up slow and watch what'll happen. That kerf on closed will close on top, and then let's look and see what the pressure starts to do. All right, so did y'all see what happened there?
Yeah.
So what good does it do to put that big notch in there when your notch is actually at the back of that Dutchman? Because now it has to be cut loose to move. It can't go all the way down. You see? If you make that back corner of the notch meet, then it can go all the way down till it closes, but it couldn't go all the way down. So now you're stretching that fiber of your hinge, and you got to cut through it to get it to go the rest of the way. Even if you come up here now and weaken this, it'll go down a little bit more, but it's going to snap it. And I would suggest you do that so it don't push it towards you.
So now we're going to cut this hinge or cut the...
Well, just try to cut the hinge and see what it does. Just take the tip of the bar and cut the hinge and see how it's peeling out there? So when you start cutting that, watch what that fiber does. So, did you see how it started going back to its original position?
Yeah, it's fine.
And what'll happen if you've got a green hinge all the way across there and you start doing that, it'll grab your chain every time. If you try to come in kind of flat with the face notch, trying to think, oh, I'm gonna go in there flat with it, it still comes out. And what happens then usually it sits down on your bar tip and you're stuck because of the weight of the log. So, see, it can't go down any farther, can it? It's a lot of resistance there in that little kerf. And many times if you got more Dutchman on one side or the other, or you cut your hinge off on one side or the other, it's going to move it side to side. But look at that. Those limbs didn't move that thing at all, did it? Because your hinge is there. And like I said, yes, if I can't jump over it, I'm going to use a what? A notch and a hinge. Because I see how it steals trees, and I know it'll steer that log down to where I want it to go. Now to cut that loose, I don't go back in under it. Go over about 1.5 inches or 2 inches to the right or the left. And if it starts to grab your saw, you'll see that you just let it sit there about 20 seconds and you can get it out, because the fiber between the two are cut. Just take the tip and just cut across it. So go to the side of your face, right to the middle of the face notch there. Yeah, not where it's attached. You go that side or you go the other side? I go the other side.
Go this side?
Yeah, not that far over, about 1 inch or so over, and just take the tip of your bar and you got to go down through the depth of your hinge there, okay? And you'll see it'll start trying to close on your tip. Just the tip, just use the tip. There you go. Very good. So Alicia, did you see that? When he got to the other end, you still had the RPM going, and when he got to the other end, he didn't force it. He did what? He let it cut. That way, when it comes out, it's not going to come flying at you. But now, see how that closed?
Yeah.
Even if it closes up like that and you think you're stuck, just touch back here. Might have to touch the other way. There you go. You got a little. There it goes. It cracked. So it's splitting off. So if you just let it sit there just a little bit, it'll start to crack out at that bottom there. You push that off, it's just like an offset cut. It's gonna break right loose. See how it's split?
We call him Skitter.
But if you don't go so deep, just use a slide notch, and then when you cut it offset, it'll come right out every time. Well, it's a 90-degree opening. It's not so deep, and you don't have a bypass on it. I could move a lot, couldn't I? I'd have a lot of mechanical damage on it.
It's amazing how flexible trees, and if we put it up there on that big one, we'd do the same thing. That's how they stand there in the wind, see? Blowing in the wind. That's how come they don't break. If they weren't that flexible, they'd tip over at the roots every time the wind blew. Pretty smart, huh? Yeah, that's one thing too, you know, people talk about hard hats. This is not going to compress and it's not going to come up like a line, but this would be the same cuts that I'd make. So now it's unstable. One thing I've noticed, and a lot of people do, is, you know, when you cut in brush, everybody wants to cut down here. When you cut down here, it starts to move over. So I found it to be pretty decent. You cut high and then low, it kind of brings everything down. And oftentimes, too, it keeps some things coming over you that way. So that's something to think through. And never put your saw up here like this to cut stuff like vines and limbs, because if I get tired and I go up there and cut that limb and it touches right there, I can't stop it. I mean, this saw is right at 5.5 horsepower, if I'm told correctly. And it's got a 7.2 sprocket on it, so I've got a lot of horsepower spinning around on that chain. If I touch that, I can't get out of the way. I'm not fast enough. I had one guy, he told me this story years ago. I thought it was kind of cool. I just remembered it. He said, you know, you talk about that kickback like that. He said, good example of it. He said, you go out here on the road, you stand on the yellow line. I'm going to get my truck. I'm going to hit at you at 55 miles an hour, because I told you that chain goes around 55, 56 miles an hour. And you stand there. I'm going to get going towards you at 55. When I get 5 feet from you, I'll honk the horn. You jump out of the way. And that's how quick it happens. So 5 feet from here to here doesn't give you enough time to jump out of the way. So here I've got hinges. My notch is good. I've got hinges. Now, I can take and go side to side with the notches. You gotta watch sticks. They can come out. But so I'm gonna just put a little mark underneath, just a little shave notch, and then cut from the top. Don't move now, do that. I look into that top cut so we can make the bottom cut neat. And so, do I have 70 degrees? No. I've got probably 82.3. You see that? So this tree should stay intact until it gets way past the other 2 pine trees and almost to the ground before my hinge is compromised. And, you know, if I think about here, how much did I say I wanted? 12 inches? Is that right? Huh? I'm exactly 12. So, if it doesn't go right, it's not my fault. All I have to do is work the plan.
So all my steering is done. My release is back here. I have a spot here that if it's smaller diameter and I need to jack it over, I have a place to put the wedge close to the back. I'm just putting this in here to support the hinge. I'm gonna take the tip, cut this off, and I'm coming your way. All right, tree's coming down. Oh man, it didn't break.
See how close it came to the tree?
No, we're off a long way. We're off a long way. Well, actually, if you went from the center, I couldn't go much more to the left because it's going to end up hanging on that tree. It rolled out just a little bit too, you see. It's upright.
Well, the tree rolled out just a little bit over towards the line. We had one little limb hit the line coming down, but it's a de-energized line. But we're trying to keep it completely off, but it landed about 3 feet to the right of where we wanted it. But everything went really good, and all the guys really enjoyed the presentation today. And it was a great week in South Carolina. So y'all have a great one. Good sawing to you.